First contact and cultural shock. The Galactic Confederation had seen its fair share of peculiar species, but none quite like the humans. When the Zarian exploration vessel first detected radio signals from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, they expected to find another pre-spaceflight civilization fumbling with primitive technology. What they discovered instead would change the course of galactic history. Captain Selner of the Zarian starship, Cosmic Seeker, peered at the holographic display, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession. The planet below, which the natives called Earth, was a swirling blue and green orb that seemed deceptively peaceful. "Scan complete, Captain," chirped Lieutenant Vex, her tentacles dancing over the control panel. "The planet is teeming with artificial structures and electromagnetic emissions. They appear to have achieved industrial-level technology." Cadelner stroked his chin tendril thoughtfully. "Interesting. Any signs of energy shields? Antimatter reactors? Quantum communications?" Vex's bioluminescent skin flickered in confusion. "Negative, Captain. I'm detecting internal combustion engines, fossil fuel power plants, and radio waves. It's as if they're stuck in some primitive technological dark age." The captain's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Well, this should be an easy first contact then. Prepare the diplomatic team. Let's introduce ourselves to these charming primitives." Little did Selner know that humanity's primitive technology was anything but simple. The Zarian delegation materialized in the middle of Times Square, New York City, causing an immediate uproar. Humans scattered in all directions, their screams of panic mixing with the blaring of car horns and the wail of approaching sirens. Ambassador Zilvax raised her upper limbs in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations with your..." Her words were cut short as a hot dog cart came hurtling towards them, propelled by a group of overzealous New Yorkers. The Zarians barely managed to activate their personal force fields in time. "Fascinating," muttered Dr. Ixel, the team's xenobiologist. "They appear to use wheeled conveyances for food distribution. How quaint." As the chaos subsided and Earth's leaders were hastily assembled, the Zarians began to realize that their initial assessment of human technology had been woefully misguided. During a tour of a military base, General Thompson proudly showcased humanity's latest fighter jet. "This baby can reach Mach 3 and carry enough firepower to level a small city," he boasted. Ambassador Zilvax blinked in confusion. "But where are the anti-gravity generators? The plasma cannons?" "Don't need him," Thompson grinned. "Good old thrust and conventional explosives do the job just fine." The Zarians exchanged bewildered looks. How could a species achieve such destructive potential with such primitive means? Their confusion only grew as they delved deeper into human culture and technology. They marveled at the Internet, a global information network that somehow functioned without quantum entanglement. They were baffled by the concept of software updates and planned obsolescence, but nothing prepared them for the shock of human warfare. During a diplomatic dinner, a human historian regaled the aliens with tales of Earth's past conflicts. The Zarians listened in horror as she described trenches, tanks, and nuclear weapons. "You mean to tell us," Captain Selner interjected, "that your species willingly sent millions of unarmored individuals into battle armed with nothing but chemical propellant weapons?" The historian nodded. "Indeed. In fact, one of our greatest military leaders once said, 'The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting.'" The Zarians fell into a stunned silence. The idea of warfare without energy shields, without faster-than-light communications, without even basic force field technology, was beyond their comprehension. As the cultural exchange continued, both species found themselves reevaluating their preconceptions. Humans were simultaneously awed by the advanced technology of the Zarians and proud of their own ingenious solutions to problems the aliens had solved with brute computational power. The Zarians, for their part, began to see the humans in a new light. What they had initially dismissed as primitive now appeared as a kind of rugged adaptability. These humans had achieved spaceflight, global communication, and devastating weapons of war using nothing more than the raw materials of their planet and the power of their minds. As the first week of first contact drew to a close, Captain Sellner found himself standing atop the Empire State Building, gazing out at the glittering cityscape. "Incredible," he murmured to Ambassador Zilvax. "They've built all this without a single anti-gravity generator or fusion reactor." Zilvax nodded, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Perhaps we've been too quick to judge, Captain. These humans, they may not have our technology, but they possess something far more valuable." "And what's that?" Sellner asked. "Adaptability, creativity, an indomitable spirit that allows them to thrive in conditions we would consider impossible." She turned to face the captain, her expression serious. "I fear we may have stumbled upon the most dangerous species in the galaxy." As if to punctuate her words, a flight of fighter jets roared overhead, their afterburners painting the sky with streaks of fire. To the humans, it was a display of welcome. To the Zarians, it was a chilling reminder that sometimes the most primitive solutions could be the most effective. Little did they know that humanity's primitive ingenuity would soon be put to the test in a way none of them could have imagined. The Galactic War begins. The honeymoon period of first contact lasted precisely 3 Earth months before the galaxy reminded humanity of its harsh realities. The Zarian delegation had just begun to acclimate to Earth's gravity and cuisine when the distress call came. Captain Sellner's face appeared on screens worldwide, his normally iridescent skin pale with worry. "People of Earth, we bring grave news. The Croaxian Empire, a warmongering species from the galactic core, has launched an offensive against the Outer Rim worlds. The Galactic Confederation is mobilizing all available forces, but..." He paused, mandibles clicking nervously. "We need your help." The response from Earth's nations was immediate and overwhelming. Despite their technological inferiority, humans weren't about to stand by while innocent worlds burned. Within days, a joint Earth-Zarian task force was assembled, with humanity contributing a flotilla of hastily retrofitted naval vessels and aircraft carriers. As the human ships entered faster-than-light travel for the first time, courtesy of Zarian drive technology, Captain Sarah Chen of the U.S. Invincible couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. The massive aircraft carrier, now encased in a shimmering energy field, looked almost comical next to the sleek Zarian cruisers. "Status report," Chen barked, her eyes fixed on the swirling vortex of FTL space outside the bridge windows. "All systems nominal, Captain," her XO replied. "Though I still can't believe we're flying an aircraft carrier through space." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Adaptability, Commander. It's what we do best." The smile faded as they dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. The scene that greeted them was one of chaos and destruction. Croaxian battleships, massive constructs of dark metal and pulsing energy weapons, were laying waste to the meager defenses of the colony world. "My God," Chen whispered, watching as a Croaxian beam weapon sliced through a Zarian cruiser like it was made of paper. The comm crackled to life. "This is Admiral Zexlor of the Confederation Fleet. All ships, engage the enemy. Protect the colony at all costs." As the Zarian ships surged forward, their energy weapons blazing, the Earth fleet held back. Their weapons, powerful as they were by Earth standards, seemed woefully inadequate against the Croaxian shields. "Captain," the weapons officer called out, "our railguns are having no effect. The magnetic shields are deflecting everything we throw at them." Chen's mind raced. If energy weapons were ineffective, and their projectiles were being deflected, what about our nukes? She asked suddenly. The bridge fell silent. "Ma'am," the XO questioned, "they're expecting energy weapons, and they're prepared for fast-moving projectiles. But what about a good old-fashioned nuclear explosion?" "Ensign, Prepare to launch our entire complement of nuclear missiles. Aim for the center of their fleet." As the missiles streaked towards the Croaxian ships, the alien vessels barely seemed to notice. Their defenses were calibrated for energy weapons and hypersonic projectiles, not the relatively slow-moving nuclear warheads. The resulting explosion was blinding, even at this distance. When the light faded, a significant portion of the Croaxian fleet was simply gone. "Holy shit," someone on the bridge whispered. The comm exploded with chatter. "What was that? Did you see that? How did they do that?" Admiral Zexlor's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain Chen, what in the name of the Galactic Core did you just do?" Chen allowed herself a grim smile. "Just a little Earth hospitality, Admiral. Now shall we press the advantage?" The battle that followed would go down in galactic history. Human ships, their hulls reinforced with Zarian shield technology, darted between the lumbering Croaxian battleships. They launched salvos of missiles, dropped masses of dumb bombs, and even resorted to ramming tactics when all else failed. The Croaxians, accustomed to the orderly, energy-based warfare of the galactic community, found themselves wholly unprepared for the chaotic, improvised strategies of the humans. Their ships, optimized for long-range energy combat, struggled in the close-quarters brawl that the Earth fleet had turned the battle into. As the last Croaxian ship fled the system, leaving behind a graveyard of twisted metal and dispersing energy fields, a stunned silence fell over the Allied fleet. Admiral Zexlor's hologram appeared on the Invincible's bridge. The Zarian's eyes were wide with a mixture of awe and fear. "Captain Chen," he said slowly, "I believe we may have underestimated your species." Chen nodded grimly. "It's a common mistake, Admiral. But make no mistake, this is just the beginning. The Croaxians will be back, and they'll be prepared for us next time." As the fleet regrouped and began rescue operations for the damaged colony, news of the battle spread like wildfire through the Galactic Confederation. Humanity, the newcomers with their primitive technology, had managed to do what centuries of advanced galactic warfare could not. They'd stopped the Croaxian advance cold. But as Chen watched the cleanup efforts from the Invincible's observation deck, she couldn't shake a feeling of unease. They'd won the battle, yes, but at what cost? And how long could humanity's bag of tricks last against an enemy that controlled half the galaxy? As if reading her thoughts, her XO joined her at the window. "Penny for your thoughts, Captain." Chen sighed. "I'm thinking we're going to need a lot more than nukes and crazy tactics to win this war, Commander. We're going to need a miracle." Little did she know, back on Earth, in laboratories and workshops across the planet, human ingenuity was already hard at work, preparing to give the galaxy a demonstration of innovation it would never forget. The Galactic War had only just begun, and humanity was determined to show the cosmos exactly what primitive could do. Human ingenuity shines. The news of humanity's unexpected victory at Proxima Centauri spread through the galaxy like a supernova. While the Galactic Confederation celebrated this rare win against the Croaxian Empire, the Croaxians themselves retreated to lick their wounds and reassess their strategy. However, both sides knew this was merely the opening salvo in what promised to be a long and brutal conflict. The human-Zarian alliance had the element of surprise on their side for now, but how long could that last? Back on Earth, the gears of human innovation began to turn at an unprecedented rate. The world's greatest minds, from MIT to Tsinghua University, from Silicon Valley to the European Space Agency, all turned their focus to one goal: adapting humanity's primitive technology to face the Croaxian threat. Dr. Emilio Rodriguez, a brilliant materials scientist from Brazil, found herself at the forefront of this effort. Her lab at the University of Sao Paulo had been working on experimental metamaterials when the war broke out. Now she stood before a panel of military officials and alien diplomats, her hands shaking slightly as she prepared to present her findings. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored alien guests," she began, her voice steadying as she spoke. We've been approaching this problem from the wrong angle. We can't match the Croaxians in energy weapons or shield technology. At least, not yet. But we don't need to. We just need to make their advantages irrelevant. She pulled up a holographic display, courtesy of Zarian Tech. This is our new metamaterial armor. It doesn't just absorb or deflect energy. It redirects it. Any beam weapon fired at a ship coated in this material will find its energy redistributed across the entire hull, effectively neutralizing its impact. The room erupted in murmurs of excitement and disbelief. A Zarian scientist raised a tentacle. But how? Our most advanced energy dissipation systems can't achieve anything close to this efficiency. Amelia smiled. That's because you're thinking in terms of energy manipulation. We're using good old-fashioned physics, specifically the principles of wave interference and energy distribution across nonlinear surfaces. It's not high-tech, but it works. As Amelia's metamaterial went into production, other breakthroughs followed. A team in Japan developed a targeting system that could predict the movements of Croaxian ships based on the minute gravitational disturbances they created. Engineers in Germany perfected a propulsion system that combined conventional rockets with controlled antimatter reactions, allowing for unprecedented maneuverability in space combat. But perhaps the most surprising development came from an unexpected source. In a small workshop in Kenya, a group of engineers led by Dr. Malik Oching had been experimenting with an old Earth technology that had fallen out of favor centuries ago, the railgun. The problem with our current weapons, Malik explained to a captivated audience at a global defense summit, is that they rely too heavily on explosive force. The Croaxians can shield against that. But what they can't easily shield against is pure, overwhelming kinetic energy. He brought up a video simulation. Our new railgun design can accelerate a projectile to a significant fraction of the speed of light. At that velocity, it doesn't matter what kind of energy shield the Croaxians have. The sheer kinetic force will tear through anything in its path. The implications were staggering. Humanity had found a way to create a weapon of devastating power using nothing more than magnetism and speed, principles that had been understood for centuries. As these innovations, and many others, were rapidly integrated into the human fleet, the Croaxians launched their counteroffensive. They had learned from their defeat at Proxima Centauri and came prepared for humanity's primitive tactics. What they weren't prepared for was how quickly those tactics had evolved. The Battle of Epsilon Eridani became the stuff of legend. Croaxian ships, their energy weapons primed and shields at maximum, found their beams splashing harmlessly off human vessels coated in metamaterial armor. When they adjusted, firing salvos of conventional explosives, the human ships danced around them with inhuman agility, their new propulsion systems allowing for maneuvers that defied the normal laws of space combat. And then the humans returned fire. The first railgun shot from the U.S. Invincible, now refitted and back on the front lines, streaked across space like a bolt of divine judgment. It struck a Croaxian dreadnought dead center, puncturing straight through its supposedly impenetrable shields and out the other side. The ship didn't explode. It simply split in two, its internal systems exposed to the vacuum of space. Captain Sarah Chen, watching from the Invincible's bridge, allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. "Send the word to all ships," she ordered. "Operation Slingshot is a go. Let's show these Croaxians what primitive can do." What followed was less a battle and more a systematic dismantling of the Croaxian fleet. Human ships, nimble and now nearly invulnerable to energy weapons, darted between the lumbering alien vessels. They fired salvos of hypersonic projectiles, launched swarms of AI-driven smart missiles that could adapt to any evasive maneuver, and unleashed bursts of weaponized antimatter that ate through Croaxian hulls like cosmic acid. The Zarian ships, integrated into the human battle groups, provided support with their advanced sensors and communication systems. But even they found themselves largely spectators to the display of martial prowess unfolding before them. As the last Croatian ship winked out of existence, fleeing into FTL to escape the carnage, a stunned silence fell over the Allied fleet. It was broken by the voice of Admiral Zexlor, crackling over the comms. By the Galactic Core, the Zarian breathed. Captain Chen, I don't know what to say. Your people have achieved in months what the Confederation couldn't do in centuries. Chen's response was typically human in its understatement. We had good motivation, Admiral. And we've learned that sometimes the old ways are the best ways, especially when your enemy isn't expecting them. As news of the victory spread, the galaxy reeled. The Croaxian Empire, long thought invincible, had been handed its most decisive defeat in living memory. And it had been done not with overwhelming force or superior technology, but with ingenuity, adaptability, and the creative application of basic scientific principles. In the aftermath of the battle, as the human fleet regrouped and began repairs, Dr. Amelia Rodriguez found herself on the observation deck of the Invincible, staring out at the starfield. A Zarian scientist approached her, its bioluminescent skin pulsing with what she had learned to recognize as excitement. Dr. Rodriguez, it said, its translator rendering its clicks and whistles into English. I must know, how did your species do it? How did you innovate so quickly, so effectively? Amelia smiled, her gaze still fixed on the stars. It's simple, really. We've spent our entire history fighting. Against nature, against each other, against our own limitations. We've had to be creative to survive. And now, faced with a threat to our very existence, we did what we've always done. She turned to face the alien, her eyes shining with pride and determination. We adapted. We overcame. And we're just getting started. As the Invincible's engines hummed to life, preparing to take the fleet back to Earth for refit and resupply, Amelia couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The Croaxians had been bloodied, yes, but not beaten. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the conflict began, she felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage. They had shown that primitive didn't mean powerless, that ingenuity could triumph over advanced technology. And as the stars streaked into lines of light outside the viewport, Amelia Rodriguez knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The final battle. The Croaxian Empire was reeling, but far from defeated. As news of their losses spread across the galaxy, the Empire's high command convened in their capital world of Crox Prime, the cavernous war room, hewn from the living rock of their homeworld's largest mountain. Echoed with angry debate and fearful whispers. Supreme Commander Vexthor, his craggy face lined with scars from 1,000 battles, silenced the room with a thunderous slam of his fist. Enough. These humans have made fools of us for the last time. We will crush them, and we will do it now, before they can spread their infectious ideas of innovation to the rest of the galaxy. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of hatred and grudging respect. Prepare the Worldbreaker. We end this war in one strike. Back on Earth, the atmosphere was one of cautious optimism. Humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with, and the Galactic Confederation was beginning to see them as true allies rather than primitive newcomers. But those in command knew the war was far from over. In a secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the Milky Way, her face illuminated by the swirling galaxies. Admiral Zexlor's avatar floated beside her, his tentacles twitching nervously. Our deep space sensors have detected unusual activity in the Croaxian home system, Zexlor reported. We fear they're preparing for a major offensive. Chen nodded grimly. They're desperate. That makes them dangerous. What do we know about their capabilities? The hologram zoomed in on a massive space station orbiting Crox Prime. This is the Worldbreaker, Zexlor explained. It's a weapon of unimaginable power, capable of destroying entire planets. We always thought it was a myth, but he trailed off, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. Chen's eyes narrowed. And you think they're planning to use it on Earth? It wasn't a question, but Zexlor nodded anyway. We estimate they'll be ready to fire in 72 Earth hours. For a moment, the weight of the situation threatened to overwhelm Chen, but then her jaw set, her eyes hardening with determination. Then we have 71 hours to stop them. Get me the Secretary General and the Joint Chiefs. It's time for Operation Thunderbolt. The next 3 days were a whirlwind of activity. Every shipyard on Earth and in the colonies worked around the clock, refitting the fleet with the latest innovations. Dr. Rodriguez's metamaterial armor was applied to every hull. Dr. Ochin's railguns were installed on every ship capable of handling the recoil. And in laboratories across the globe, scientists and engineers worked feverishly on one last, desperate gambit. As the deadline approached, the combined fleet of Earth and the Galactic Confederation assembled at the edge of the Sol system. It was the largest armada ever seen in the galaxy's history, a testament to the unity forged in the crucible of war. Captain Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood on the bridge of the Invincible, which had been transformed into the fleet's flagship. She looked out at the sea of ships, each a pinprick of light against the velvet black of space. All ships report ready, Admiral, her XO announced. Chen took a deep breath. Send the word. Operation Thunderbolt is go. The fleet jumped to FTL, hurtling across the galaxy towards what they all knew might be their final battle. They dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Croaxian system, immediately met by a wall of enemy fire. The Croaxian home fleet was massive, dwarfing even the combined might of Earth and the Confederation. And there, looming behind them, was the Worldbreaker. It was a monstrosity of engineering, a space station the size of a small moon, its central cannon glowing with barely contained energy. All ships, engage, Chen ordered. Cruiser groups, focus fire on their capital ships. Fighter squadrons, run interference. And someone get me a firing solution on that damn space station. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships darted and weaved between lumbering Croaxian dreadnoughts, their metamaterial armor shrugging off energy beams that would have vaporized them mere months ago. Railgun shots streaked across space, punching through Croaxian shields like they were tissue paper. But for every Croaxian ship they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place, and all the while, the Worldbreaker's cannon grew brighter, the energy building to apocalyptic levels. Admiral, her tactical officer shouted over the din of battle. The Worldbreaker is preparing to fire. Estimated time to discharge. 5 minutes. Chen gritted her teeth. They were out of time. Patch me through to Dr. Rodriguez. Now. Amelia's face appeared on the view screen, her lab a hive of activity behind her. Tell me you have good news, Doctor, Chen said. Amelia's face was grim but determined. It's ready, Admiral. But we only have one shot at this. If it fails, it won't. Chen cut her off. Because it can't. Transmit the specs to all ships. Initiate Protocol Omega. As the order went out, every ship in the human fleet began to change. Panels slid open, revealing a network of strange, crystalline structures that covered their hulls. As one, they began to glow with an otherworldly light. What is this? Admiral Zexlor's voice crackled over the comm. What are you doing? Saving the galaxy, Chen replied. And rewriting the laws of physics while we're at it. All ships, on my mark, activate the resonance array. The Worldbreaker's cannon reached critical mass, a lance of pure energy lashing out towards the distant point in space where Earth lay, unsuspecting. Now, Chen roared. Every human ship lit up like a newborn star. The crystalline structures pulsed in perfect synchronization, creating a web of energy that spread across the battlefield. As the Worldbreaker's beam struck this network, something impossible happened. The energy didn't dissipate. It didn't reflect. Instead, it began to loop back on itself, caught in a cascading resonance effect that grew stronger with each passing second. On the Invincible's bridge, alarms blared as sensors overloaded. It's working. Amelia's voice came through, tight with excitement and fear. The resonance array is containing the energy, but we can't hold it for long. Chen's mind raced. They couldn't let that energy dissipate, or half the galaxy would be vaporized. There was only one option. All ships, full reverse thrust, she ordered. Push the energy back towards the world breaker. It was like trying to push a sun. Every ship in the fleet strained against the colossal forces at play. Hulls groaned, engines overheated, and more than one vessel simply disintegrated under the strain. But slowly, inexorably, the contained energy began to move. The Croaxians, realizing too late what was happening, tried desperately to shut down the world breaker. But the weapons processes, once started, couldn't be stopped. With a final, heroic effort, the human fleet shoved the contained energy directly into the heart of the world breaker. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the space station exploded with the force of a supernova. The shockwave rippled out, vaporizing the Croaxian fleet and sending the human ships tumbling end over end. As the light faded and sensors came back online, a stunned silence fell over the fleet. Where the Croaxian armada had been, there was nothing but debris and dispersing energy. "Status report," Chen croaked, pulling herself up from where she'd been thrown to the floor. "The world breaker is gone, Admiral," her tactical officer reported, awe in his voice. "So is most of the Croaxian fleet. The rest are in full retreat." A cheer went up across the ship, across the entire fleet. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had faced the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known, and they had won. As the celebration raged around her, Admiral Sarah Chen stared out at the starfield, a mix of emotions playing across her face. They had saved Earth, saved the galaxy, but at what cost? And what would come next? As if in answer to her unspoken question, a transmission came through. It was from the Croaxian capital world. Their supreme commander speaking not with rage, but with something that sounded almost like respect. "Humans of Earth," Vex Thor's gravelly voice filled the bridge. "You have defeated us. Our greatest weapon lies in ruins, our fleet scattered. We surrender." As Chen processed these words, she realized that this wasn't just the end of a war. It was the dawn of a new era for the galaxy. An era where humanity, once dismissed as primitive, would help shape the future of all species. She allowed herself a small smile. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain: humanity was ready to face them, together.